workers. Usually it's our nurses, but this quarter it's more of our support staff, which support our doctors and nurses, and that includes bank staff. Well, we do get a high proportion of bank staff that access Stream Speaker. There's no change with the type of concern that seems to appear consistently, and that's actually about behaviour of our colleagues, inappropriate attitudes and behaviour. And as you know, with the stability and the impact of instability, that does actually take away a lot of focus and concentration from our first line staff working medically, so that's really, really important. So that is the most commonest category of concern. So for the first time in July, the National Quarterly Pulse Survey, which if you recall is an interim temperature check, if you like, of how colleagues are feeling, and it featured specific concerns about speaking up for the first time. Although it was a small sample size, it's probably no more than 10–15%, nevertheless it tells us that our colleagues are speaking up to their line managers, their supervisors and tutors, and then a manager and directors. That is really positive because that's, they're using their local support in the first instance, and then we ourselves and HR come in next. That was really quite encouraging to see that, because you don't want people to come to freedom to speak up as a first point. There are reasons to exhaust other avenues really. But it does tell us something that we know already in terms of why people don't speak up, and we've seen these before as fear and futility. And then if you have a look at table 2.7, it gives just some interesting insights into some of the pretext as to why people don't speak up. So in terms of anonymous concerns, we do record anonymous concerns. That's quite important because that again gives us a flavour of how people are feeling. You'll see that we have had a number of anonymous concerns raised at Rayside, but of particular note, I think it's important to bring to your attention that some of our colleagues at Rayside remove their badges, their work badges, when they approach the garden, which I think is really concerning. We should be the safest place. And we have shared that with managers. And likewise, there was a perception, although we were able to identify this perception was not based on reality, but there was a perception for some staff at Rayside that if they were to eclipse, there would be censorship. That wasn't the case, but that nevertheless, that was a perception. So we're going to be supporting these colleagues and the leadership at Rayside to, in the culture of care programme, specifically try and address the speaking up culture and particularly the role of managers and leadership in that. So further on in the report, I talk about some of the themes. They will see some of those. And also we talk about the work that we've been doing to improve our speak up culture and arrangements when was our AGM? So it was September, wasn't it? September, yeah. She appeared at the AGM, which was a really good opportunity to showcase the work we do, but also for our champions to take part. And one of our champions, Charity, is a real rising star. She's doing the mixed general nursing and mental health nursing. I think she's in her third year now. She's one of our champions, but she was excellent because she has been a freedom speaker champion amongst her student nurses, and it showed us again that there is a need for our training student nurses, a specific need actually. So we are working, Kerry, one of our guardians, is working with the practice placement team and also preceptorship to improve those arrangements and support our student nurses. So further on, you'll see that we do break down the characteristics of our speakers. We are really committed to making our speaking up arrangements inclusive. Unfortunately, we do have quite a high number of colleagues that access the service but we're unable to understand their demographic, particular characteristics. Obviously, this is really important. So, some feedback for us from one of the, I think it's from the People Committee, that we will look at ways in which we can try and get that data. We do follow up after we've closed the case and ask colleagues what their experience of speaking up is. What we will do in the future is we will ask them to give us their demographic data. So we're able, there's another opportunity to ask that, so we can record it and monitor it. So in terms of organisational learning then, we've been working with our people team and they've listened, they've acted on the feedback that we've shared, some other recommendations. We've supported the organisation with in terms of improving our formal investigation processes and how our colleagues in the people team work with people to speak up. So there's a number of planned actions to include, as you would have heard, training of more investigation officers, protected time to complete investigations, robust monitoring casework and things like that. We've also contributed to a number of the given intelligence to some of the CQC inspections recently, and also some of our North wards, George and Eden wards. We've shared some of the intelligence we have with our leaders there, and I think those wards are still included in the National Policy Improvement Programme. So that concludes my report really, and the three main takeaways are that for the first time we've looked at our pulse survey data, and that tells us what we already know in terms of speaking up barriers, but it also shows us who our colleagues are speaking up to, because prior to that we weren't able to tell in any sort of systematic way. And secondly, there are significant concerns I think we know about at Rayside in terms of speaking up. I talked about the censorship, or perception of censorship and the removal of ID badges. But thirdly, the work that we'll be doing to support these in the team and the local leaders will hopefully mitigate and really sort of support our managers and give confidence to our managers to respond to concerns in the best and safest way. Thank you. Anybody has any questions at all?
Yeah. Just a couple of things to say. In the staff networks, I know that previous people came in quite a long time ago with the brief. It's just whether we can do anything around that, because that would be discussed with the usual certain characteristics. And then the other one, I suppose, stuff I've said before, when you get a breakdown by professional type of the absolute, it's not just these proportions that you'd expect a lot of those.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in the numbers of states in Seminary, for instance, there's numbers of people. So it'd be really useful to see that proportion to actual stuff in, will tell us something interesting as well.
Fair point, Dave. I have actually put a little, I think I've actually included a little link that tells us of what proportion, but I haven't done that to the other exercise to do that in future, thank you. And yeah, awards like we do ask our networks whether we can work with them. And we have seen some networks work with some networks more than others, so we'll take that into interest.
The disability wellbeing one would be really good one to do. They did something very particularly difficult. So I was on a call with someone for half an hour yesterday. It's really freed up speaker. But not the major, just a example. Machine.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I wanted just to say thank you, not just for the report, but beating the talk about the provision to speak up in October as a team. You did a huge amount of work to get out into the organisation, raise awareness, and I know you all that took a toll on all of you, the hours, out of hours work that you did. So I wanted to say thank you on behalf of the board to yourself and all of the guys and chaplaincy that undertook that work. My question goes more related to, you made a reference in the report to the low levels of training being undertaken by managers on the things we are training. So I just wanted to ask if you had any commitments on the journey of this report to the board, was any commitment given to support actions to increase the level of training undertaken by managers?
No, but Lisa and I have discussed that, haven't we? And I did raise that in one of my meetings with Lisa, and it's going to be a new quality objective, isn't it? Yes.
Just wanted to make sure that we've got a commitment to do something about it.
to come into planning and we'll have a new quality account set that potentially it could be one of our priorities.
Yes, I had a discussion with on the network with some friends from the Chartered Institute of Governance. And there was quite some reflection as to whether the mission of the freedom to speak up role function within the NHS has drifted away from when it was set up in 2015 after the first reform to focus on quality and safety concerns, to focus on grievances and well-being of staff and the rest, which are also picked up by HR documentation or HR policies. So the question was for us to reflect as to how much of the conversation we have through their reports around freedom to speak up focuses the camera on the lens on quality and safety concerns that are coming through the conversation from staff.
Yeah, I was going to maybe just respond to it as well. So as someone who's worked in the NHS since it first came in and has worked in a number of organisations during that period as well, I think the intention was always that it was about quality and safety. The reality is, in every organisation I've worked in, and I think you as Guardians pick this up a lot as well, the predominance is that people use it to express concern about their own experiences. Some people do use it to express their concern about quality issues. And from our point of view, it's about are people raising things that we are already, from a quality and safety point of view, we are already aware of and managing in some way, versus working with freedom to speak up around, quite often the conversations we're having are, we're doing this about it, you being aligned to it, us taking in the wider concern around it. But just to give assurance, we do focus in on those things in that way, but also to say that the experience has been, ever since it was initiated from the past report, it's predominantly been used for other things.
Yeah, and the reason why that is because, and is encouraged to do so, is to effect the culture of the organisation and to bolster and encourage our colleagues to speak up about anything, even though the focus was around patient care, patient safety issues, and it's been a lot wider than that now. And it's actually expected by our regulatory colleagues as well. They look for that. They look for the involvement of freedom to speak up around issues that are, a significant challenge for the trust, and the fact that they're hearing, if you want to use the term, noises from the trust, but potentially from colleagues. So that is supposed to be an extra mechanism, an extra tool, and hopefully through time the focus will be more around patient, concerns around sort of patient safety, patient care, rather than personal. I know Patrick and sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Bashir was saying. I think it's recognising that in most cases it's quite difficult for staff to even speak up. So it's acknowledging that when people do that, we don't just say, well, actually, this is not the right place for you to raise that. But I know that Emma and the team, normally when somebody come up with something that isn't really a freedom to speak up issue, they tend to be signposted into some of those areas within HR or elsewhere. And that work happens really behind the scenes. It's really about how we integrate with some of the other teams and not just loading everything on freedom to speak up. So I think in my view, yes, we might have some HR issues coming through, but I think it's appropriate that people go to whoever they think is appropriate to raise their concern, and then we manage it in that way.
I was just reminded when David raised that about something that you've kind of hidden under your bush a little bit and haven't drawn out. But one of the other things that the team have been doing quite significantly is not just thinking about who's coming to us, but who isn't. So what are the services and what are the areas where we're not getting people coming forward? And I know you utilised the visit regime that you did in October to go to some place. So, you know, for example, Tamarind is somewhere that you've raised before. You know, actually we get no contact from Tamarind. What's that about? And whilst there might have been theories that were being given to you, whereas accepting the version and saying actually we want to check this out for ourselves. So I think that's really important to highlight as well. That it's not just about, you know, this is what we're getting, and therefore, but actually going out there and testing out where are we not getting things from, and how do we encourage.
And just want to finish up saying, you know, unfortunately, the themes are changing in terms of, on the back of what in terms of bullying and harassment. They seem to be the most dominant themes which are being raised with yourselves as guardians, and then also the protected characteristic group of individuals that are coming to speak up is interesting to see, as well, that people are still coming up with the same issues. So that's telling us about we probably just need to do some more work in those areas to see if we can shift the dial a little bit more. There's a lot of work that is going on, so it's not, and obviously you have to put things in the realm in terms of, you know, how many people are coming, but it's just interesting to see that data and actually to see those themes haven't altered from one year to, from, you know, some time, haven't been shifted, to see all the different things. It's around accessibility, or it's around something else, but it's actually still around the same thing. So sometimes, you know, I think you touched on it, but when we had it, I think when I first came to this trust, we had the chat that devised, created, initiated civility saves lives. And sometimes it's the messaging again around our whole behaviour. Our values as well, actually, what we deemed to be inappropriate behaviour with each other as colleagues, and just kind of reinforcing that, eventually change the culture, that bullying and harassment, or the interpretation of that actually starts to reduce because the civility approach is kind of embedded in our culture, how we engage with our colleagues. Just want to draw that. Lisa, thank you.
I just wanted to touch on what could come out of their inquiry as well, because that, amongst their terms of reference, are looking at the efficacy, I guess, of previously regarding existing arrangements, whether they're sufficient, whether they need to be, you know, whether there is too much to be able to rely on, whether, you know, whether they need to be reorientated, or any changes there. So that would be interesting. We hope that will report in the next 6 months. So it could be potentially some different guidelines or something for us to start. That's someone to watch for.
And thank you to Lisa, because I know that it now falls under your group and supporting Emma and the colleagues. And actually what's, yes, and actually see the increase in champions, and hopefully having a really diverse group of champions that is able to reach out to all of our colleagues. I think that's really important. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just going to shift the agenda slightly and bring Shane. Shane, take a seat here. This is the first time, Shane, that we've actually brought you in on time. According to
And the sun is shining as well.
I cheated a bit, actually, and just shifted the pleasure. I was bring you in.
What turning the consequence on who?
Really good.
So Shane's here to just to present the overview report of SSL, which is Summit Health Services Limited, for those of you who don't know the acronym.
Yes, SSL, yes, Summit Services. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. Obviously, the report was submitted, hopefully everybody's read it. I just really wanted to highlight a couple of things from the report, hopefully for your understanding. First of all, I think Rayside is important for us. Rayside is one of our most important sites, and we know it's a challenging site for the Trust and for SSL. We're working with Lisa to hopefully try to mitigate some of those issues. And we've managed to find some additional funding for us to be able to upgrade bathrooms, showers and toilets. So the environment will change. And that's progressing as we speak. The unfortunate thing is, of course, that it's still a 40-year-old building, and it's still quite difficult to operate out of. And therefore, we're continuing to investigate funding options for trying to re-provide Rayside in a slightly different way. With regards to capital and capital projects, the major one obviously is the new Highcroft capital project, which is progressing, and we're looking to go to planning. With regards to the other projects that we're looking at, main house for the first team is progressing well, and we're starting to do some work there. And then obviously 24/7, which is obviously a new service, which we're also working on. New systems, we've invested quite heavily in terms of new systems. We've got a new estate system, which has been rolled out and implemented across most of our properties. It will be completed by the end of March. So all of our sites will have the new estate system. And then there's a new food management system called Symbiotics, which is being implemented initially at Arden Lee now, and will be rolled out during 2025. And then with regards to pharmacy, there's a couple of things there. First of all, we are in the process of just purchasing a new robot. Our existing robot has been there for 9 years, and we've gone through the build process, and hopefully we'll be able to place that order before the end of this financial year. The second thing about pharmacy, I think, is CYP. So even though CYP is obviously a trust project, it actually does impact on SSL as well. In particular, with regards to the majority of the services that come across our community base, so they will go through our pharmacy of the two. And we anticipate that the increase in prescriptions could be up to 30%. So obviously that's a concern in terms of how we're able to manage that increase. And then in addition to that, the service also currently offers a house delivery service to its ADHD clients. And there's 1,200 deliveries a month that are being done through a courier. So we need to be aware of that. And last but not least, our most important asset is our staff. So just to let you know that this month we're doing our business briefings, so we're explaining to our staff exactly what we're doing and how we're moving forward. We're also looking at how to plan our next staff survey, and we're aware that the Trust have done their staff survey, which is improved, which is really good. and we're looking to build on our success that we had last year. And we're also looking at our staff awards, which will happen in June this year. Thank you.
It's probably worth just picking up the thing you talked about, food management and estate management. One of the key drivers is providing information to services and staff that are raised still. So it's just this about responding to what people say. I'm never sure where the work is. This is to allow people to actually track that growth. So it's really, really important to get that embedded and make sure the services are trained. Can you just describe a little bit about that?
Yes, so in things like the estate management system would mean to say that any trust staff would be able to check on progress on any issues that are happening within their particular building. If they identify something that's not working, then they could raise it with an agency on the system. So there's a complete tracking system from our point of view. It does give us an opportunity to respond more quickly. So an example would be if we've got a water leakage in a site which we know about, we track all of our plumbers. So we would then redirect a plumber to that water site to actually sort out that problem immediately. So it's a far more responsive system. It also gives us data that allows us to understand how we can improve in the areas that we should improve. And then on the food management system, first of all, it gives us an opportunity to standardise our menus across the whole of the estate. The second thing is that we've been working with the trust and the nutritionists within the trust to make sure that they're obviously balanced. It gives also the opportunity for service users to order their food in the ward on electronic devices. So they're able to see the menu, but also anybody that has any allergies or any particular things that they dislike or don't like, we can program it to just show them what they need or what they should be able to eat rather than the whole region. So it's a very much more focused system.
Excellent. Great. Patrick.
Thanks, Jane. So when we started the meeting, we had this backstory from Nikki. We heard about utilisation of space and specifically around cleaning spaces. I know that in your report you talk about you book and the trial of utilisation, and it talks about a full report due pre-Christmas. So just wanted to understand whether this site to get feedback around utilisation, so that it is clear around that, and when you think there will be a report to report on.
Yeah, the report is ready, and we've had some interesting results from that report. What we've identified is that space isn't being utilised as well as we hoped, and people are booking rooms, booking larger rooms than they need for their meetings, and certainly repeat bookings just in case things are going to happen in weeks 2 and 3. We've been challenging those. So we've actually improved the utilisation in Northcroft and to demonstrate what we've done. We're using that data to then start to look at what sort of resources would we need to be able to manage that over all our other buildings. And I think it's all about visibility, and it's also about us helping the trust to make the right decisions. And so hopefully, before the end of this financial year, we should be in a position to be able to put a full service in place.
And what I was going to say is I've got that report to get to the execs in the next week or so to go through that, and there's some fairly substantial improvements, but it's also evident that there is some obviously there's poor behaviour. So some people are occupying the space and don't need, so picking up what you talked about, trying to get a clinical space, we've got to make sure we balance that properly. And in a minute, because the control is really disparate all over the place, we've really got consequences. So for Peter's waste stuff about that, we've got to understand to achieve that what do we need to do. So it's really important we see that through properly. So I think we need to have that discussion with the exec to understand the different nuances and then work out how we work it through. But I'd say there's been some really good involvement from the staff that
So,
at Northcroft.
yeah, absolutely. Hugely supportive, and I think they recognise the issues as well.
Great, thank you. Shane, thanks very much. I will say what you started off with, which is about the slight upgrade or refurbishment at Rayside is going to be hugely welcome. How long do you think that will take?
Well, we're working on it now. We think over the next 2 to 3 months we should be able to do a lot of that. But like I said, the issues or some of the challenges that we have is, of course, to upgrade a shower or a toilet. Sometimes you have to make them, you have to take them out of decommission, and therefore we need to work with clinical staff to make sure that we can do that successfully. So in the ideal world, we could do it in a few months, but it might take a bit longer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks.
Have a great meeting.
Yeah, thank you. So we are moving over to FPP, which is Finance, Performance and Productivity Committee. Can you just pull out the key salient points for us, Val?
Take questions.
Yeah, that's
Or actually, you can, Dave is coming next with his finance report, but
I'll be very brief. I'll take the report read. In summary, our year-end forecast to deliver a £2 million surplus is on track, although not without challenge. We have, as we spoke earlier, about system-wide challenges in terms of how we design and set our financial sustainability going forward, and in particular our cost reduction plan for next year. Sort of 3 key issues that are sort of are big ticket items, and that's the non-trust bed overspend, bank and agency. Although, again, to note, and I think Rashid's mentioned it, we've made a really significant effort this year around our agency spend. Phenomenal effort by everybody, so I think it's a long way that continue. In terms of, I think Rashid mentioned we have the planning guidance now for 25-26 last week. Despite that, the team have continued to sort of shape what the financial plan could look like for next year proactively, which is great, and that work continues. At the last meeting we had received plans on from Lisa around how we're going to be looking at our bank spend going forward, and also the productivity plan from Torero, which focused on our variant beds as well in particular. I think the committee was assured in terms of the robustness of those plans going forward, and we're looking forward to the outcomes of those plans materialising. Because I think, if we land those two, I think we make a significant positive impact financially to us. And I think we talked about the integrated performance. The committee was assured on the ongoing performance in specific settings, particularly around talking therapies. So again, very well done there. I'll just paraphrase this how it's written in the thing, just to think of the record. For assurance, we received recommendations from the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. They were noted, and these will be reflected in all committee terms and reference, and executives have been identified. The 4 pillars: governance, strategy, risk management, and metrics and targets will be periodically reported through governance structure and set out in the requirements in the annual report. I'll take questions.
are there any questions for Val? Just one, so yeah, very quickly, just, I know the committee does receive a report on IT and digital. Has it had any wider discussions in relation to the potential, realisation of utilising AI, etc., and also considering the reframing of the name to actually put a kind of focus in there.
We did discuss this, I think we might have one of our pre-meetings, I'm not sure, but not necessarily formally at the committee, although, you know, specifically on digital, we had a specific meeting that we did a deep dive, and Carl came along and presented the full plans, which included AI, and I think the thing for us now as a committee is to look at periodically how often do we want digital as a feature in the committee in terms of reporting. And I think there's a view that could possibly be a little bit more regular than it currently is, as you know, that whole space has again a big contribution potentially to make, both financially and a qualitative impact across the trust. So, you know, I can't specifically answer your question, Chair, but yes, there's definitely discussions.
Discussions to be taken into consideration.
Just a few things around such challenges that not repeating stuff, but what the plan is, we bring on a twice yearly basis to the board, the outcome, and I'm just trying to work out when that works through. So that will feed into the regulations working through. There's really good discussion senior leaders the other day about AI, really good. And what we do, and there's lots of opportunities you might look at and that machine around some works is what you're doing in terms of writing but there's also this thing about, and how we do it in concert with the discussion we want to try and do it at scale across the course. So the entire range of things, there's likely to be more proactive work around IT, digital and this sort of stuff across the ITS. There'll be real opportunities for that. So it's just really making sure we're clear about what's going to happen when. We will be saying that cycle coming back to the board. So the proposal is it comes twice a year. I think we said April and in 6 months from now, we go through. So working with council around that time scale.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think it's important that we understand how advanced we are from a digital perspective as an organisation. So we've just, for example, in recent weeks, we've given the highest level of categorisation for safety for a security breach. I think that last week we got that, and we're one of the only trusts in the health trust particularly that's going to get that. So I think there's something about understanding. So we sort of accept a lot, don't we, around where we are from a digital perspective. We've also, you know, so we know that, for example, you know, just thinking about CYP coming, you know, transitioning, actually, again, a recognition. We don't have any paper observation records. Some years cost us. We're going to have to get that bit of the organisation up to speed pretty quickly, because what we're inheriting isn't part of an organisation that still does it that way. So again, and that isn't unusual, but from our point of view, we see it as such because of the advances that we have made. We've taken the view, I think, for the last few years, that the kind of way we think about the use of digital and including AI in the organisation is we have technicians, we have clinical advisors come to us, tell us what your problem is, and we'll help you understand how digital can support that. And what we know is that that's really only had very limited impact on people adopting new technology. And so the idea is that we want to change that into our technical staff who understand all of the technical possibilities to really inspire people to think about this is the art of the possible. So that was what we tested out at the beginning of the week. So in senior leadership team there was and this is what can happen, this is how I use it, and this is how you can bring it alive. And the difference that made in the room left, everybody in the room was so energised by, I can do something, I can make this happen. So we talked about some master classes for particular uses of particular aid. Because if our leaders aren't inspiring it, you know, others aren't utilising it. So what we want to do is really change the focus from come and tell us what the problem is and we'll tell you whether or not we've got it, to here are digital solutions, how do you want to use them and we'll support you to use them. But it really works on Monday. So that level of energy, that it created.
That sounds great. And that's what we want to hear in encouraging, and also they looking forward to something coming to the board in April as well. So,
Just to add on, I think that's a really great way of doing it. I mean, organisations where I've worked and it works well, yes, you've got to have that operational call, but you need a CIO that can actually tell them what the shop window looks like. Yeah, and I think if you get that sweet spot, it really starts to connect and work.
excellent.
So it's just all motivation really. Some of the organisations, for the reasons that you've described, where digital is not just about infrastructure form of thing, but also around people's ways of working, economics and usage of, are having digital committees as separate to finance or one or two and stuff, because it touches on each of those. Might be something we consider in the future, I think. And because the reason why they're doing it is just that how can we embrace artificial technology? How can we maybe use it as a tool to help enhance our services? So what's the outcome of patients? So obviously patients becoming more digital literate, expecting more because of using apps in different settings rather than health. So it's just a consideration I think we should ought to have as a board, a sort of serious conversation about that. Because unfortunately FPP, the performance side is massive, as we know, and the financial challenges are massive for the NHS as well. So the danger is that we kind of surround me sitting in that particular committee.
I know I've got things I'd like to say, but we'll be saying that in that conversation.
Yes. Thank you for those comments. I'm going to shift over to you,
So not repeating anything that's already been said, so we will achieve the balance with targets for this year. I think we can say that with absolute confidence, we said that one period of time. Although the overall BSOL system has still got significant challenge, or it's significantly off its plan, a lot of progress over the last couple of months. Certainly there's been discussion at a lot of ICS meetings, including CEOs. Really good support trying to take this system first approach. So we're not there yet in terms of being able to achieve the overall balance as a system, but it's significant progress. We expect to be able to achieve that with a fair wind. So yesterday's discussion was actually thereabouts, apart from about 7 million, as opposed to the 80, and that's still to go through the CEOs on Friday, so I won't say too much about that, but that's a significant move from where it's been. However, going into next year, we and the rest of the system have got significant problems. Partly, when you look through, there's still, although we've had the planning, there's some nuance in there. So for instance, it's unclear how national insurance uplifts will be funded. So it's unclear whether it's coming across specifically or it's part of the overall. So the overall uplift will be down. If it came across in there, it means we can pass that on to third sector voluntary in the way that we go through. So it's all series of stuff still to work through. What's already been said, I think, and it's been included before, the underlying position that we're in going into next year, before anything in terms of the new year comes out, is about 16 million deficit. So if you strip out all the non-recurrent one-offs, we spend 16, 17 million more than we bring in. That's the challenge we've got, which is built up over a period of time by not being recurrent savings. If you add in just the inflation element around it, it's about 3 million. So if we go into next year, the challenge for us is 20. Over and above that, though, some of these uncertainties have got to be worked through. The system, for instance, is, Rashid's already said, it's looking at what we do around the service development funding, because there are opportunities by taking out some of the funding, and we need to do that knowingly. So the ask has been for all the organisations to look at how the money is spent in the service development funding, how do we get the best value across the system around it, and there will be potential change around that, not just in Medline, but right across the piece around it. We will bring through the detail when we're a bit further advanced on that, but I think it's also worth saying that actually, in terms of achieving this year, we have delivered significant savings, actually recording in more than 10 million without impacting the service, and that is significantly better than we could previously. It's important you know, actually a lot of that has been one-offs and technical, to be fairness, but there has been a significant improvement. We have got sessions with leaders over the next week or so to go through that, and we did have a session about this on Monday, so it came up again in the senior leaders. It's really important we do this with people as opposed to do it to. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think the next few weeks are very crucial. It still feels a little bit like some of the information is being drip fed. So I don't think that's deliberate. I think it's that point that Dave made about lack of clarity. And the clarity is important when you're trying to make a plan. So, you know, you could be thinking about, is it 20 million, is it 50? Is it? So I think the next few weeks are going to be just going to need a little bit of time to actually work through the kind of getting the clarity on those things. And I think we're again in a situation, and I'll probably say a little bit more about this in private session, but we're in a situation, I think, where we've been doing the groundwork around preparing people in the organisation for the fact that life's going to be different and the expectations are going to be different. So I think, and that's the important thing, because we could, of course, go away and close sprint because we've got a deadline next week and come up with something. But because this is so crucial, and we need buy-in, we're going to have to spend quite a lot of time working with people before we get to an agreement around it.
Okay, and I suppose just the last thing, within the pack, you've got the NHS oversight framework, so we went through this and noted where the ICB rates us and rates the overall system. I mentioned earlier when we talked about fraud, but some of the things that it's saying, we really got to, before we get to that, we have significantly improved and it is sustainable, certainly around improving the talking codes, etc. So I do intend to respond back, just saying we continue to do this, fully committed to it, but just point out what we have achieved in this last year. Certainly the financial significant one, some of the other performance improvements significant as well. But I think we're also talking about and how going with large capital rule and the change that puts us in a good position to do that as well. It's really important to just register that.
Are there any questions for Dave or from the finance report? Well, I mean, firstly, it's great to know that this financial year we are and that's positive, and actually the system, our ICB colleagues have actually commended the position that we reached this financial year, which is great, notwithstanding it's going to be significantly challenged. But just wanted to recognise the hard work that everybody's done to actually get into this position, which is absolutely fantastic to be in. There's a lot of more work to do next year, particularly to see where we can curtail the areas that are a significant challenge for us, like increase our spend, increase our costs, and obviously that's around temporary staffing and also around out of areas as well, which is already a focused piece of work being undertaken where that is concerned. It's also quite just thinking about those kind of things, that's just one area, there's other areas as well that we probably are going to have to significantly tighten our belts up going into the next financial year. And as Rashid mentioned in the report, it potentially makes some difficult decisions going forward what we can and are unable to do in the next financial year. So just wanted to recognise that. But there's no other questions. Thanks, Dave. Right. Okay, so that brings us to the audit committee assurance report.
Thank you. I take the report as read, I'm just conscious of time. We had the audit committee on, it says 24th of October, I can't be right. It was sometime during January. Yeah, we had it very recently. What I'm pleased to report from the audit committee is that we did review not only the BAF but also the corporate risk register. So that was quite a good thing that we did when we met the risk manager. It's good to know that we've got assurance that risk management groups meeting every 2 months and actually going through the risks as well. I think I'm looking at the wrong update, so I'll just talk from the top of my head really. We had a good look at all the BAFs across the whole group, so SSL, the provider and also the commissioning MPs, and you'll know later on with the commissioning committee that commissioning has also been updated. But yeah, actually, nice to write, get that to mind, don't worry about that, it's fine. I think there isn't much to really bring to the board's attention in relation to the audit committee. I think it's important just to note that we also discussed the annual accounts timetable, which is coming up as well. So we hope that we'll be able to be in a position to get all the things all set up in a row so that we can ensure that we produce our annual accounts and that the year goes to plan without anticipating any key issues there. I've got there now. In terms of advising the board, we had 2 reports, which one was a partial assurance rating for the medical job planning, but we're going to come along to the committee and get the staff assurance as to some of the work that's going to be done to addressing some of the recommendations there. And we also had a really interesting report on discharge management, and then we're going to hand that one over to the Finance and Performance Committee. And I think what it highlighted is that as an organisation, like many in the health service, there are many ways in which we do discharge management. There's no one-size-fits-all, and actually probably worthwhile just looking at the whole thing and seeing how efficient and effective that can be as a whole. So that's all we really wanted to raise in terms of the audit committee.
Brilliant, thank you. Any questions for Winston? Just one from me. Just in relation to going into the next financial year and just looking at the work of internal audit and the programme updates that they set out in relation to the work that they're going to carry out. How effective is the committee chairs potentially contributing to that in relation to some specific pieces or areas of work that they would like internal audit to look at, to review?
So to the internal audit programmes, I would expect that they would first run around with the exec directors about the areas that they want to have a look at. And internal audit tends to have a sort of 3-year strategic plan anyway, so it's really a refresh on that. And I think after it's gone through with the execs, I would expect them to take it to the audit committee and for the committee chairs to say, is there anything else that you believe I missed out on anything? But I've already put some pointers out there. So, for example, I think we want to have a look at e-rostery in the context of how efficient it is, how effective it is, but also the outcomes of it, because it does point to the CQC reporting, staffing and things like that. So that's one of the areas, for example, we want to take a look at in particular for next year. But there may be others which other committee chairs would want to read into that process. But what we want is an integrated plan that's got inputs from everybody around the board table, if you like.
Yeah.
And as well as some of the key operational needs too.
Thank you. So no other questions for Winston? Then we go over to Real Interest Values, and I believe it's Vanessa that's going to share her experience.
It is, thank you, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity to reflect. I took a couple of nights out, I sort of got my little notepad out and I started writing on here. I can't even read it out, it's so small. I should have had a bigger piece of paper. It was really difficult, just sort of reflecting on values and when you go out and about and see people. But I need to put my glasses on and I won't even be able to read my writing at this stage of that. Right, okay. So, you always feel when you go out on a visit, you're always thinking about the values, being compassionate, inclusive and committed. And it always does ooze out from the teams. You never go in and think, oh God, great, it always feels like it's always there. And then when you start having more conversations with people, you look at the work we're doing, you're just thinking, this is a great place to work and people really do get the values. I do have the opportunity, and we all do as an exec, to, and others in the board, to welcome new people to the organisation in trust induction, and I had the pleasure of doing that on Monday. And I was feeling the values in the room there, and the people who had just joined us for the first day. So sometimes people are really quiet when they join the organisation, but there was quite a vocal group in the room, so that was really nice to do that. So if I go back to compassionate, I think sort of probably where we felt it most, the last couple of months is definitely in our urgent and emergency care pathway. When it was getting really tricky and when our acute colleagues announced they were in critical, I went over to bed management on a Friday and it was tough in there. There was lots of people who were in ED departments, They've been there for days, they've been escalating 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, because of the flow had completely slowed down across the system. Our bed management and our, clinicians running up and down that sort of management corridor, working with each other, trying to do the best. And that, that compassion was really, really oozing out of the teams, trying to do the best for people. Knowing being, placed in an ED department, not being able to get out was not great, but trying to work with others and with partners around that. So that really, really felt compassionate, very inclusive and very committed. The work that we're doing around people with learning disability and autistic people, I think again, you really see the compassion there. People who probably in the past haven't had visibility in our organisation, but now we're absolutely embracing their needs and what we can do differently together. Again, working with partners. I can really feel the compassion around that client group, which I would say probably in the past across the country haven't had a great service, and we're really, really embracing and working on that. I think we always show compassion with each other as well, and look to yourself, and the work you were talking there and how you're working with other people. I think that's been really helpful, Nikki. Just sort of sharing that, from grassroots today. And you do feel that out and about. People really look after each other. And we've had a significant incident, which we'll probably talking about before, in one of our home treatment teams. People just coming together and helping each other. It just feels really, really, really proud to see and to hear and to feel that. Inclusive, again, I've got a long list here, I'll pull out a couple. I think our work with other partners, particularly at Rookery Gardens when I visited just around Christmas time, was really good. Birmingham Healthy Mind, embracing them as a different workforce, but actually how we're working together inclusively to meet the needs of service users felt really good. The work we're doing on 24/7, and we did a bit of a show and tell with our Birmingham community colleagues, and Fabida led that presentation. It was great around how we are rooted in the communities, how we're talking with communities that we never used to hear before, never used to engage with before, and that feels so inclusive and so right, because they know the needs of their communities and they're helping and supporting this service going forward. I think I'd highlighted some of the stuff that we're doing around health inequalities in the board report as well, and again, really, really proud of that. And then committees is getting a lot smaller now, these notes here. I mentioned trust induction. I think the work that our experts by experience are doing in shaping and helping us also, again, thinking about the work we're doing in the 24/7 service with Lumsden and community transformation, that's really, really, again, really sort of does stand out around the offer there, and how people are willing to give themselves and their experience to help us in our organisation and our staff and our carers. I'm going to read this. Name check for George and Eden Ward around their commitment around flow and discharges. That happened a couple of Fridays ago, and then we sort of name checked the service manager Emmanuel over there, and one of our doctors. Just the work they were doing and actually how they're keeping that flow and how they're actually helping and supporting our system colleagues. I think finally, Lisa and I launched the Culture of Care programme over at Rayside. Was it this Monday or last Monday? Last week. My Mondays and my week, I didn't have a week. That was really good, wasn't it? Because I think, launching a new programme, a lot of anxiety in the room, but, two of our ward managers that came forward and spoke about what they want to do, and that feeling of commitment and a real sort of shift with launching that piece of work. So there's my reflections on that little piece of paper from the other night. So
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for doing that. And I just wanted just to reiterate the importance of us sharing, living the values, that we're actually sending a very clear message of the importance of not just having values, but actually seeing them demonstrated throughout the organisation, which helps to foster that culture of inclusiveness, of being committed and compassion being shown. And I guess just having it here, it would, hearing it here as board members, it would be remiss of me not to say that, you've just highlighted some colleagues who demonstrated compassion and inclusivity and so forth. And it would be good for them to hear that as well. And I think that kind of goes back to my other passion here, which is about board blocks, so people can maybe see it on Connect. And I know that today it's being recorded, but you know, our colleagues don't often take the time out to go and either read board papers or even watch video clips of the whole board meeting. But just a brief synopsis of some of the key highlights of the board of the board meeting, which actually highlights a service, might not necessarily pinpoint specific individuals, but again, it just reiterates the importance of how we're placing the values and how we're actually recognising our colleagues and commending them for really demonstrating the values which is key to this trust and how we integrate not just with one another but also with our patients and service users. So thank you for that. Vanessa. Just moving on now to just about reflections. Was there anything from our discussion today, what questions were posed to any of the reports that were presented that you feel needs to be reflected or reviewed, think about? With that resounding silence, I guess there isn't anything there. In terms of any other business, I just wanted to recognise that this board meeting would be actually Thomas's last board meeting as executive director, and I just wanted to thank him for his contributions and input that he's made here, and actually his enthusiasm as well, and just bringing his knowledge and skill set to our trust, which we benefited from. Just wanted to say a huge thank you for that. It's been really appreciated, so thank you very much. I think we're the first person to get a round of applause. Thank you.
It's nice fun, right?
Just wanted to ask, are there any questions from governors?
Yeah.
Hi.
I'm going to talk about inclusivity, and I'm going to put the two together. One is that Michelle was talking about perimental, and I just sort of, it wasn't sort of, it's very, very big. Perimental has been in the news for all sorts of trusts recently, and my concern is when it comes to inclusivity, what progress has been made, or you know that it's been made, with the ethnic community who seems to be falling behind, in some respects.
Yeah. What's the response to that?
So, I'm quite happy to have an offline conversation with you as well, but certainly there are examples in the trust where the perinatal team have really worked with people from the local community who we knew weren't accessing the service, particularly people who have got experience from a racialist nature where there's a mistrust in the organisation, and that has led through to new experts by experience coming to join us and the access being improved. I haven't got the data in my head by what level, but that's certainly something that we look to as being a really good example of where the community team worked with and they've developed some trust and enabled people to access the service in a way that they wouldn't have chosen to.
Thank you. Very quite a skill to do with inclusivity, and it's something that I was talking to John Travis, he mentioned yesterday, that there's some talk about putting the children under 18 back into our board, and that to me would be inclusive. I know it's financial issues and everything like that, but I'd just like to make that point.
Yeah, so you may have heard us make reference earlier to children and young people's two things that we're doing. One is establishing an all-age model, which means that we will no longer have that differentiation. And the second is that an agreement that we've reached with both the Birmingham and Solihull Integrated Care Board and all the organisations within it, that all the services will be provided from one provider. So that does mean that we are working on children and young people services that are currently provided by children's coming across into the trust.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the first question around perinatal, that I have seen where they've been proactively going into the communities. For example, they've been working closely with the Wishtown Centre, focusing on faith and how it impacts on perinatal, providing talks and opportunities for people to interact. So I think that's really positive.
Thank you.
Good questions, thank you very much. So that actually concludes our board and public meeting. Thank you to everybody. Oh, did you have a question?
Yeah, it was sort of a question, sort of a reflection. So I mentioned earlier about being a professional nurse advocate, and one of the things that we run is we call them PNA cafes. So a couple of us will go and spend a couple of hours in a trust site where people can then drop in and speak to us. And you were mentioning earlier about medical PQ and that there's been some difficulties there recently, and staff may need some additional support. So I've made note of that hopefully we can arrange for a cafe there. But I just wonder if there's some way of us kind of linking up so that we're aware from the PNA service as well of maybe areas where there are some difficulties if you're picking up things when you're doing your site visits, so that we can then target those areas as well. To give that additional support.
We might want to think about how we link you into Freedom to Speak Up and some of the other things. So we can give some thought. We've got a group where we have a bit of a touch point. Things kind of might be worth thinking about how we might link you into that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate your input on that and your support as well, which is great.
Before we close, Chair, another yellow piece of paper here. Don't forget it's LGBTQ History Month this month, February. So the theme is honouring activism and social change. And we've got an event here. It's got on the posters that I'm talking at the event, so I can feel very nervous about that. On next Friday, on Valentine's Day, here at Upham. So we've got a bit of a provocative sort of play to talk about it, and presentation from one of our older adult units around the work they've done around the older adult community and LGBTQ+. So yes, I forgot to mention there's another little yellow note somewhere.
Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Also, just to mention, there's the International Women's Day conference happening here on the 7th of March as well.
Are there any other announcements? No, okay, that definitely then does conclude.